The Cannabis for Private Purpose Bill was passed by the South African Parliament yesterday, and certainly over the last 5 years we have fielded hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of questions about this bill. It's been through 3 or 4 iterations. It's based on the Constitutional Court judgment, which we call the privacy judgment. And one of our main focuses over the last few years, since the judgment in 2018, has been the humble Dagga Private Club, or the Cannabis Social Club, as is known in the other parts of the world. Now, what does the passing of this bill mean for our hundreds of cannabis private clubs that have popped up all over South Africa? This is certainly something that I've explained over and over again over the last few days, and I just think that it's important to set the record straight. Remember that this is a private purposes bill, and even if you do run a Dagga private club, doesn't mean to say that it's legal, because we do not have what we need in terms of the law to be certain of the legality of the private club. So, because we saw this huge gap in the laws and regulations, since 2015 we've been developing this idea of the private club. Now, one must remember that the idea of the club, kept as a private space for members only, with access control, with membership regulations, is not a pot shop. So this is why we're in this grey area, is because a private club should be allowed under the privacy ruling. But all is not what it seems under the Dagga tree, as we know very, very well. Because since 2015 we've been worried about this being the case, when poor Neil was bust in February 2020, or whenever it was in 2020, he had the courage, he had the conviction of his idea to actually take this further and apply for a stay of prosecution in the Cape Town High Court, and then eventually his case was heard in the High Court. It was dismissed, so we appealed to the Supreme Court of Appeal. Now that is being heard on Tuesday the 19th of March in the City of Roses in Bloemfontein, in the Free State Province in South Africa, which is right in the middle of our country, and certainly a great Dagga growing area, and we're looking forward to connecting with our community when we visit Bloemfontein for the court case in less than 2 weeks' time. Since 2015, when Jules and I visited our first Cannabis Social Club in Barcelona, we've always thought that this model would be a good fit for South Africa. Now, one must remember that the Cannabis Social Club, the Dagga Private Club, is the model. It's not my model and your model according to how you run your business. Your business is your business, and how you keep your records and how you manage your members is entirely up to you. The model is very, very simple. You keep it private, you have access control, you don't just let anybody become a member. One of the best ways of doing it is through referrals. No strangers through the door, and that's including the police. So if you're running a pot shop, which there are lots and lots all over South Africa, you can just walk in and buy weed. Now, I would be very suspicious of these establishments, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but we are convinced here at Fields of Green for All that these pot shops are actually paying the police. So that, of course, goes totally against everything that we stand for, and it goes against the integrity of the cannabis community in South Africa. Then there's another type of shop, which is labeled a dispensary, with a Section 21 license. Now, we've still got a lot of work to do on this particular dispensary model, because according to SAPRA, and we're going to be seeking clarification from SAPRA in the coming months, in order to get a Section 21 permit to use an unregistered medicine, because one must remember that there's no South African cannabis that is registered as a medicine in South Africa. No product, no leaf, no flower, no anything So we know that the cannabis community is ingenious, and we know that there's also lots of unscrupulous operators out there. But we also do know that we do not have a pandemic of back pain amongst the 18 to 25-year-old age group in South Africa. So basically what's happening with these Section 21 licenses, and I'm again not pointing fingers at anybody, is these licenses have to be organized in cooperation with a doctor. In other words, you have to get a doctor's prescription. Okay, first thing. Then that doctor's prescription and the reasons for why you need the cannabis needs to be sent off to SAPRA, which contains a 300 Rand application fee, non-refundable. Then you get permission to now get your weed from your chosen Section 21 dispensary. That weed, whether it's an edible, whether it's a cannabis-infused drink, whether it's a flower, whatever it is, has to be dispensed by a licensed pharmacist. Okay. So then you have your weed, okay, and you go home and you smoke it, and then you need some more, and then you go home and you smoke it, then you need some more. But unfortunately, your Section 21 license expires after 6 months. So then you need to go back to the dispensary, go back to the doctor, go back to SAPRA, pay your 300 Rand, wait however long it takes for SAPRA to process your application. Now, the rate that these Section 21 dispensaries are popping up all over the place, I very much doubt that SAPRA is doing all these admin on a patient-to-patient basis. So it's an aspect of the so-called Dagga Private Club. The two overlap quite a bit. And it's something that really concerns us. Not that we think that these establishments are selling bad weed or they necessarily doing any harm. But what they are doing is calling into question the integrity of our cannabis community. Oh, I've suddenly got some back pain, I need some weed. That type of thing. It's a loophole. And if you've got a Section 21 establishment, then how about supporting Fields of Green, that you don't have to go through all of that paperwork, because we are going to get a declaratory order from the Constitutional Court of South Africa as to whether the judgment from 2018 covers Dagga Private Clubs, the privacy judgment Dagga Private Clubs. But we don't know that yet. The courts in South Africa are very slow at delivering their judgments, so we will go to Bloemfontein on the 19th. We will hear what is to be said. The judges, it's a bench of 5 judges. They will then reserve judgment. They never make judgment straight away. They will then reserve judgment, and then we'll wait. Once that judgment comes through, whether we win or whether we lose, we end up in the Constitutional Court for the signing of that, because it's a constitutional matter. But never fear, dear cannabis community in South Africa. We have got the best legal team ever. Paul Michael from Cullinan's is representing Neil and the Haze Club. And we are, of course, represented by Stefan from SJF Attorneys and hashtag 420 Attorneys, and the amazing Don Mahan and his junior advocate. So you really do have the best legal minds working on this for you, and we will be publishing a blog post which contains all of the legal papers from the Haze Club case. If you're legally minded and you'd like to read those, I think they're splendid papers. Last week we just got in the state's reply to our affidavit as amicus curiae at the court, and basically they're saying, well, it's a weed, anybody can grow their own weed. So and they also feel that dealing is the scourge of our society, and we're just trying to get around the fact that the court said no dealing. But anyway, please support Fields of Green for All. We are the lone NGO fighting together with the lone warrior Neil from the Haze Club. Maybe one day he'll be able to reopen his business again. I know it's been an incredible strain on him, both personally and on his family and his business partners. We know it's really not easy to get the money together to pay for all of these court actions. We are at the moment staring down still another 120,000 Rand to pay. So if you've got a club, a Section 21, any sort of cannabis establishment, there's a sliding scale of ways that you can support us. And even if you're an individual, it only costs 49 Rand a month to join the Green Network. So it really encouraged people. I don't like whining on about fundraising all the time, but this is just a fact of what we are facing here in South Africa. It's not over until it's over. I always say that. And just to emphasize again, all is not what it seems under the Dagga tree. Know your rights, help us stop the cops, and let's get Dagga Private Clubs legal in South Africa for the benefit of all South Africans, all Africans, and all citizens of the world.